You're 12 years old, playing barefoot in the dirt outside your family's shack in Ming Dynasty, China, 1570, when a black lacquered carriage pulls up. A man in silk robes steps out, face like stone, eyes like a butcher scanning the meat aisle. He's here for you. He doesn't ask, he inspects your teeth, your feet, your skin, like your livestock on sale day. Then he tosses your father a sack of silver, and just like that, you're gone, sold. Not as a bride, not even as a servant, but as a concubine. Your mother's sobs fade as the cart rattles away, her face blurred by tears and dust. You're 12, barely old enough to braid your own hair, and now you're cargo, headed for the Forbidden City. The air stinks of sweat and horse dung, and your stomach churns, not just from hunger, but from the rumors you've heard. Girls like you don't come back, ever. You arrive at a towering gate, red as blood, where eunuchs with cold eyes herd you like livestock. Stripped naked, you stand shivering as they poke and prod, teeth, skin, and feet. One girl's sent home for a crooked nose. Another's kept because her feet are small enough to bind. Yeah, foot binding. They crush your bones into lotus shapes so you'll hobble prettily for the emperor. Sounds fun, right? Wrong. It's torture that'll leave you screaming for weeks. You pass the inspection, barely. Now you're in the harem, a maze of silk walls and whispered threats. Older concubines glare, their eyes sharp as knives. They're not your friends, they're your rivals, and they'd sell their own kids to keep their spot in the emperor's bed. Your first job? Serve tea to a senior consort who slaps you for pouring too slow. Your cheek stings, but crying's a luxury you can't afford. The rules are simple. Obey, charm, survive. Slip up and you're out of a job. Nope, you're dead. Maybe starved, maybe tortured, in the worst possible way. A girl next to you whispers about a concubine who spilled wine on a noble. She vanished. Rumors say she's buried under the palace floor. You're learning this fast. This isn't a palace. It's a battlefield, and you're armed with nothing but your face. A year has passed, and you're 13 now, trapped in the Forbidden City's inner court. A prison draped in silk. The walls shimmer with gold, but the air's thick with jasmine and fear. You limp on bound feet, each step a knife in your bones, because beauty means pain, and pain means you're still alive. Your days start before dawn, scrubbing floors for senior consorts who sneer like you're a roach in their rice. Your job? Make them look good while staying invisible. Pour tea too slow and a bamboo rod cracks your knuckles. Spill a drop and you're locked in a closet with no food for a day. Starvation's a great teacher, apparently. The emperor's bed is the prize, and every girl here's playing a deadly game to get there. You're taught to smile, bow, and flutter your fan like it's a weapon. But the real battlefield is the whispers. That girl with the jade hairpin, she spread a rumor you stole a noble's comb. Now you're scrubbing latrines while she bats her eyes at the emperor. Another concubine, May, slips you a warning. Trust no one. They'll drown you in silk to climb higher. She's not wrong. Last week, a girl was caught flirting with a guard. Eunuchs dragged her out, her screams fading into the moat. They say the carp ate well that night. Your big break comes when a senior consort picks you to serve at a banquet. You're dolled up in silk that costs more than your village, but it's a leash, not a reward. You pour wine for a noble, his leering grin sour with rice liquor, his hand grazing your wrist. Your skin crawls, but you can't flinch. The emperor's mother, face carved from stone, watches from her throne, her gaze a blade at your throat. One wrong move, a tremble, a drop, a glance too bold, and you're not just dismissed, you're erased. Your hands shake, wine sloshing dangerously close to the cup's rim. The noble chuckles, low and cruel, as sweat beads under your powdered face. You set the cup down, fan fluttering to hide your panic, and step back. Silence. The consort nods. Not useless, she growls. A lifeline in this viper's nest. Then the gong sounds, deep as a death knell. The emperor's coming tonight. Your pulse roars like a war drum, drowning out the banquet's clatter. If he chooses you, a son could lift you to consort status. If he doesn't, you're chaff for the next purge, like the hundreds starved last year. You're carried to his chamber on a palanquin, bound feet useless, silk curtains swaying like a shroud. The doors creak shut, sealing you in with a man whose whim is law. His shadow looms, eyes glinting like a predator's in the lamplight. You kneel, heart choking your throat, fan forgotten. His voice is soft, but it's a blade wrapped in velvet. Please me, or you'll wish you hadn't. You force a smile, every nerve screaming, as he steps closer. Failure's not just shame, it's a one-way trip to the moat. You survive the night, but the cost lingers in your trembling hands, your reflection a stranger's. By 15, you're a ghost who's learned the harem's code. Charm the emperor, sidestep the consort's daggers, and pray you don't end up like the girl who slipped from a balcony last month, her silk scarf fluttering down like a broken wing. Survival's your only art, and you're painting it in blood. You're 16, and the Forbidden City's harem has carved you into something sharp, like a blade forged in fear. Your bound feet ache, your smile's a mask, and your eyes miss nothing. You've learned to dodge the consort's venomous glares and slip past their traps, but every day's a tightrope walk over a pit of snakes. The Emperor's noticed you. Once. He called your name, and for a fleeting moment, you felt like more than a ghost in silk. Now, you're pregnant. Jackpot, right? Wrong. A baby's your ticket to consort status, but it's also a target on your back. That jade hairpin girl, now a consort herself, spreads a rumor you poisoned her tea. You didn't. But truth's a luxury nobody cares about here. You're hauled before the Emperor's mother, her face cold as a tombstone. Prove your loyalty, she hisses, or join the ghosts under the palace. Your heart's a hammer in your chest, but you bow, voice steady, and swear your innocence. A eunuch's whip hovers, ready to tear your skin if you flinch. By some miracle, a servant vouches for you. She saw you pour the tea, clean. You're spared, but the message is clear. You're one lie away from a noose. You give birth to a son, and the palace buzzes like a kicked hive. A male heir could make you untouchable, but it paints a bullseye on your baby's tiny head. You cradle him in secret, whispering promises you can't keep, while rumors swirl of consorts slipping poison into cradles. Sleep's a stranger now. You jolt awake at every creak, expecting a knife. The Emperor summons you again, and you're carried to his chamber, silk curtains swallowing you like a grave. You charm him, fan fluttering, voice soft as moonlight, and he smiles. You're named a low-ranking consort. Congratulations, you've climbed one rung in hell, but the higher you rise, the harder they push to make you fall. May, your only ally, warns you of a plot. The jade hairpin consorts bribed a eunuch to frame you for treason. Treason means execution, not just you, but your son. You act fast, slipping a gold hairpin to a loyal maid who exposes the plot. The jade hairpin girl's dragged away, her screams echoing through the palace. You win this round, but at what cost? Your hands shake as you hold your son, knowing every victory makes you more enemies. By 18, you're a survivor, a chess piece who's learned the board. But the game never ends. A new girl arrives. Younger, prettier, her eyes hungry for your spot. The Emperor's gaze shifts. Your son's your only shield, but even that's not enough when a plague sweeps the palace. You hear whispers of a purge. Too many concubines, not enough rice. Last time, hundreds starved. You clutch your son tighter, praying you're not next. Survival's your crown, but it's forged in blood, and it's heavier than you ever imagined. You're 22. Your son now a toddling target in a palace that chews up hope and spits out bones. You've dodged knives, both steel and whispered, but the air's heavier now, thick with plague and panic. The Emperor's sick, the court's a mess, and whispers of a purge slither through the silk curtains. Your name's on a list. You feel it in your gut. Then it happens. A rival consort, that viper with the pearl earrings, accuses you of cursing the Emperor's health. Witchcraft. The word's a death sentence. You're dragged to a stone courtyard, moonlight glinting off the executioner's blade. Your son's screams echo from the nursery as you're forced to your knees, bound feet throbbing like a second heartbeat. The Emperor's mother looms, her voice ice. Confess, or your boy joins you in the dirt. Your throat's dry as ash, but you spit out a denial, praying your loyal maid can pull strings. The blade hovers, cold air kissing your neck. Then a shout. Your maid bursts in, clutching a stolen letter proving the pearl earring consort's lie. She bribed a eunuch to plant herbs in your room, framing you. The Emperor's mother pauses, eyes narrowing. The blade drops, not on you, but on your accuser. Her screams cut short, blood pooling like spilled ink. You're spared, but your son's not safe. You smuggle him to a distant cousin, a risky move that could cost you everything. The plague worsens, and you're coughing now, lungs burning like they're full of embers. The palace doctors don't bother with concubines. By 25, your body's breaking, bound feet infected, joints aching from years of kneeling, lungs scarred from disease. You're no longer the emperor's favorite. A new girl is taking your place, her laughter echoing where yours once did. But you've left a mark. Your son's alive, hidden, maybe free. You've trained younger girls, teaching them to survive the harem's claws, passing on your hard-won tricks. As you lie on a threadbare mat, fever eating you alive, the palace roars on. Silk rustling, knives sharpening. You were never just a concubine. You were a spark in a dynasty's flame. A shadow that outwitted death until it came knocking. Your last breath slips out, but your son carries your fight. A flicker of hope in a world that tried to crush you. So you outwitted the harem's deadly claws. Click the card now or miss the cutthroat secrets of your life as a geisha, where one wrong move in a tea ceremony could cost you your life. You're 12 years old, sitting under a mango tree in your Igbo village, West Africa, 1750. The sun's warm, painting the yam fields gold. Drums pound like a heartbeat, and the market buzzes. Women arguing over fish, kids chasing goats, their laughter bouncing off mud huts. You're braiding your little sister's hair, her giggles soft as a breeze, dreaming of being a storyteller like your mama. Her stories of warriors and spirits make the village glow. Life's hard, dirt under your nails, sweat on your brow, but it's yours, until the screams start. Dawn cracks open with a roar. Huts explode in flames, spitting embers like angry stars. African slavers, armed with European muskets and allied with pale traders, storm through, their boots crushing your world to pieces. Your sister's hand slips from yours as she's pulled away, her screams slicing your heart. You dive behind a yam stack, heart pounding like a war drum, but your best friend, Essie, spots you. Her eyes jump between you and a raider holding up shiny glass beads like they're a gift from heaven. Her little brother hangs weak in another raider's arms, blood running down his forehead. She's there, Essie whispers, her voice shaking as she points. Please, just take her instead. Your stomach drops into hell, betrayed by the girl you shared secrets with. Rough hands grab you. Iron shackles snap around your ankles, cold and heavy, biting your skin raw. You scream for Mama, but she's lost in the smoke. As raiders drag you into the forest, she runs after you, pushing a hand-woven bracelet into your hand. Keep my stories alive, Adwa, she whispers, tears running down her face. Then she's gone, swallowed by the fire and chaos. The march begins. 300 miles to a place you've never seen. Thorns tearing at your feet. The air thick with sobs and the smell of burning dreams. Storyteller aspirations? The universe just pissed on your parade, Adwa. You're cargo now, and this is the worst road trip in human history. Destination? Chains. The forest march ends at Cape Coast Castle, a giant stone building sitting by the sea. You're shoved into a cell so dark it swallows hope. The air chokes you. Sweat, piss, and death thick as mud. Chains clank. Cries bounce off slimy walls. And the girl pressed against you goes still. Dysentery claiming another victim before her 13th birthday. Your ankles burn, raw from metal cuffs, and your stomach twists from hunger. Then a slave trader walks in, his torch spitting light. He grabs your jaw, checks your teeth like you're a horse. His grin sour as spoiled milk. Strong enough, he growls, and a red-hot iron burns property into your shoulder. You scream until your throat bleeds, the smell of your own burning flesh filling your nostrils. They call you Mary now, stripping your name like it's nothing more than old cloth. You grip Mama's woven bracelet, whispering Adwa to keep her stories breathing in this tomb. A guard catches you, his whip cracking your lip, blood dripping like bitter rain. You hold back tears. Crying's a death wish here. In the dark, a woman, Ya, slides you a handful of mush. Her eyes sharp but kind. We're planning something, she whispers, nodding at a ship outside. A revolt. Your heart leaps. Freedom or death. Finally, a choice that matters. But then Ya's hand hovers over your bracelet. Give it to me or you're not in, she hisses. Trust another traitor? Your gut twists. Welcome to Cape Coast Castle, where hope comes to die, and the only checkout is in a coffin. You're chained in the belly of a slave ship, a wooden coffin rocking on a wild sea. The space is so tight you can't sit, your knees jammed against someone else's back, the air thick with vomit, sweat, and human waste. You can taste death on every breath. Planks creak under you, wet with filth, slick with fluids that have no names you want to know. Above deck, women's screams pierce through the hull as crew members take their privileges, stealing their innocence and dignity.
Their bodies no longer theirs. Their leers crawl over you like roaches when they bring you the daily slop. You can call watery gruel and maggoty hardtack food. Your bracelet, Mama's woven gifts, digs into your wrist. The only thing keeping you sane. You traded it to Ya for a spot in the revolt, but she pressed it back into your hand before the guards chained you here. Tonight, she whispered, when the moon hides. Midnight hits. Ya presses a rusted nail into your palm and whispers, work the chain's weakest link. For 30 minutes, you grind the nail against the iron, fingers bleeding, metal screeching softly until the chain breaks. Your hands free. You crawl through the dark, bodies shifting like a living sea. Others working their own chains loose. Some with stolen tools. Others using their teeth to knot ropes. But boots thunder above. The revolt begins. Shouts, fists, a stolen knife flashing. Ya appears, blood streaking her face. A dead sailor's cutlass in her grip. The deck, she screams. But musket blasts answer her call. The crew was ready, always ready. Blood splashes across wooden planks like spilled wine, and Ya's dragged to the rail, still fighting, still screaming defiance as they feed her to the sharks. Their fins slice through moonlit water, erasing her life like she never existed. You're spared, forced to scrub her blood under a sailor's whip, your hands shaking, stomachs churning. You hum Mama's Igbo lullaby, soft as a whisper, and the sailor pauses, his whip arm dropping. Something almost human flickering in his eyes before he remembers what you are. Your voice is your blade, cutting through this hell. They call it the New World? More like a mass grave with sails and a serious hygiene problem. You're 13, stumbling off the ship into Barbados heat that hits like a hammer to the skull. The port explodes with chaos, auctioneers shouting prices, plantation owners circling like vultures, auction blocks rising like gallows against the Caribbean sky. They scrub you raw, oil your skin to shine like a prize pig, but your eyes burn from weeks of salt and tears. The auctioneer barks, fresh cargo, young, but she'll breed well in a few years. His voice sharp as a whip, while men in wide-brimmed hats appraise you with eyes like cold coins, poking your arms at your hips. A little girl from the ship, your sworn sister after the revolt, clings to your leg, but a buyer rips her away, her scream a knife in your gut. You're alone again. Mama's bracelet, your only anchor. A planter with a scar snaking down his cheek buys you for his sugar plantation, his voice cold as iron. Mary, he calls you, spitting on your Igbo soul. Dragged to a shack, you find a rusty nail and carve Adwa into the dirt floor. Each scratch a promise to stay you. At dusk, the planter's daughter, pale as a ghost, slips you a mango through the window slat. You're too young for this, she whispers, pity dripping from her voice like honey. Your heart flickers. Kindness? In this hell? Then she runs to her father. Sobbing you stole it. His whip cracks 5 times across your back. Each strike a lesson in how mercy is just another word for trap. Welcome to British Barbados, where the sun's brutal, the whips are worse, and your name is just a suggestion. You're 15, cutting sugarcane on a Barbados plantation. The sun a blazing fist pounding your skull. Endless green fields stretch to the horizon. Razor-sharp stalks slicing your palm. Blood mixing with sweat, dripping like red tears into Caribbean soil. 16 hours a day, your machete swings, blisters bursting, while the overseer's whip cracks like thunder. His cruel game, showing off a whip worker's back at sunset as a warning, haunts you. The latest victim's cries stuck in your ears. 2 harvests pass by, each day a blur of sweat and pain. Now 17, the planter stalks your shack at night, his rum-soaked breath a poison in the dark. His hands, rough as iron, pin you down, tearing your clothes and spirit with every brutal touch. You fight, clawing and screaming, but his weight crushes your resistance, leaving scars no whip could match. Soon, a secret grows inside you. You're pregnant, a life born from his cruelty. You hide your swelling belly, knowing a child means double chains. For you and the innocent life you die to protect. At night, in a shack reeking of sweat and despair, you tell Mama's Igbo stories to the women, your voice soothing their kids to sleep. They call you sister, their trust a spark in this hell. But the overseer hears, his eyes narrowing like a snake's. Stirring trouble, Mary, he growls, his whip coiling, ready to strike. You move fast, slipping a rock into the cane mill's gears. The machine stops working, buying the sick a day's rest. But his boots stalk closer, and you see the anger and suspicion in his eyes. You hold your bracelet and whisper Adwa to stay strong. You're 18, your belly heavy with a child you'll never let wear chains. The Barbados plantation burns your soul, but your plan worked. The mill's been down for weeks, giving the broken bodies time to heal, time to hope. But the overseer knows. He's been watching, waiting, building his case like a spider weaving death. Tonight, under the blood-red moon, he drags you to the whipping post, rope in his hands, murder in his eyes. Time to make an example, he growls. But you're done being anyone's lesson. You hum an Igbo folk tune, but the change in rhythm cuts through the night air. The signal they've been waiting for. The women you've been teaching. The sisters you've been building step from the shadows. Torches flicker to life in their hands like fallen stars. You spent 3 years planting seeds of rage, and now they're ready to harvest. Together, you light the first cane field on fire, the flames shouting your anger, the plantation's wealth burning bright as the moon, smoke carrying your defiance to the heavens. For precious minutes, you're winning. The overseers scramble, shouting orders, but chaos is your ally now. Then the muskets crack like breaking bones. Blood soaks the earth that's drunk so much of your sweat and tears. They drag you to the gallows as dawn breaks, the noose rough as justice around your throat. But you're not done. Not yet. As the noose pulls, you sing Mama Igbo's lullaby, loud and strong, shouting Adwa to the stars. The crowd gasps. The overseer pulls back, but the rope steals your breath. Your body falls, but your stories don't. The women whisper them to their kids, your name carved in their hearts, seeding a fire that'll outlive this hell. They thought they silenced you. Surprise, your voice burns louder than their sugar cane. The cane field's flames fade, but you, Adwa, burn eternal. You were 18, a mother-to-be who defied chains with stories and fire. Your name, Adwa, echoed louder than whips, carved in dirt and hearts, sparking a legacy that outlived the plantation's scars and every chain around your ankles. Your lullabies still hum in the African diaspora, from Barbados to today's festival. Tried to erase you, but your voice still cuts like a blade through their lies. You're born in 14th century Europe into what they call a cursed bloodline. Not cursed enough to die young, not blessed enough to escape your fate. Just stuck in the middle of nowhere with a destiny even the devil begs to pass on. Your mother spends her days praying for your soul before you even know you need saving. Your father, he's always gone, doing work that makes grown men wet themselves with fear. Then you hit age 2. Congratulations, you've beaten the plague and starvation. But surviving childhood might be the worst thing that ever happens to you. By age 4, you start noticing the whispers. People don't just avoid your house. They make the sign of the cross when they walk past it. Your mother never takes you to the market, never lets you play with other kids. She says it's because of wild animals. But you're starting to think the real animals walk on 2 legs and throw rocks at your windows. Then, one day, curiosity kills more than just the cat. You sneak out to the village square and see a crowd gathered around a wooden platform. They're screaming, begging, the smell of blood and fear. And there, holding a strange metal device, is a man in a dark hood. The crowd parts when he walks by, some spitting, others just staring in horror. That's when you see it, your father's face under that hood. That night, you corner him. Your father sits you down, pulls off his gloves. His hands are scarred and stained, and tells you the truth that'll haunt every dream you'll ever have. Your father is a torturer. When someone steals bread, speaks against the Lord, or looks at a priest wrong, they bring him to your father. His job? To hurt them until they confess to things they might not have even done. But wait, it gets worse. See, nobody applies for this job. Nobody wakes up thinking, gee, I'd love to spend my life breaking people's fingers for a living. Which means there's only one way people become torturers. They're born into it. Your grandfather was a torturer. His father before him. And his father's father? You guessed it. This isn't just some family business. It's a family curse. And guess what? You just inherited it. You had dreams once, maybe becoming a farmer, growing things instead of destroying them, maybe a merchant, traveling to far-off places where nobody knows your name, maybe even a priest, saving souls instead of damning your own. But none of that matters now. The city won't let you do anything else. You're marked, branded, cursed from birth to follow in daddy's bloody footsteps. Age 8. Training begins. And by training, I mean learning how to clean up after human suffering. You start by sharpening the tools. Pliers for pulling teeth. Screws for crushing thumbs. Ropes for the strappado. Each tool has a purpose. Each purpose involves screaming. Before you can touch human flesh, your father tosses you a pile of animal bones. Pig femurs, goat ribs, cow skulls. Break them clean, he commands. Understand how muscles, sinew, and bone react under strain. You spend weeks cracking livestock remains, learning the precise pressure needed to shatter without killing. The stench of rotting meat clings to your clothes as you master this grotesque craft on dead animals first. You learn to oil the rack so it doesn't squeak when it stretches people apart. You clean blood off stone floors until your hands are raw, scrubbing with buckets of vinegar, the only thing that cuts through the overwhelming reek of sweat, feces, blood, and decomposing flesh that clings to dungeon stones. The acidic smell burns your nostrils, but it's better than the alternative stench of human despair. The smell never leaves your clothes. Iron, blood, fear, sweat, and something else you can't name but makes your stomach turn. Your mother tries washing your clothes 3 times, but that smell? It's not coming out, ever. Month 9, your father decides you're ready to watch. A man is brought in, accused of stealing grain during harvest. He's crying, begging, swearing on his mother's grave that he's innocent. Your father doesn't care. Innocent or guilty, your father's job is to make the man confess. That's what the law wants, a confession. Your father starts with the thumbscrews, small metal devices that look harmless until they start crushing bone. The man's screams are so loud you think your ears might bleed. You want to look away, but your father's watching you, making sure you don't flinch. This is your future. This is what you'll do every day for the rest of your life. The man confesses after his 3rd finger breaks. He admits to stealing grain he never stole, names people who don't exist, just to make the pain stop. Another successful day at the office. You're 12 now, and the real education begins. Your father hands you the pliers and points to a prisoner's mouth. Start with the back teeth, he says casually. They're easier to grip. You hesitate. The prisoner looks at you with desperate eyes. Your father's hand lands on your shoulder. Not gentle. Warning. You do it now, or I do it to you later, he whispers. But there's more to fear than just his wrath. Cross the church, harm the wrong noble, or let a prisoner die before confession and they'll burn us both alive, he adds grimly. You've heard the stories. Torturers who disobeyed orders or showed unauthorized cruelty found themselves on the same pyres they once prepared for heretics. Your first tooth extraction takes forever. Your hands shake. The prisoner passes out from the pain before you're halfway done. Your father shakes his head. Sloppy work. We'll practice until you get it right. And you do practice, on prisoner after prisoner, until pulling teeth becomes as natural as brushing your own. Age 15 brings anatomy lessons. You learn where to cut for maximum pain without killing. How long someone can hang before their shoulders pop out. How many turns of the rack it takes to make someone beg. You discover that fear is often more effective than pain. Sometimes just showing someone the tools makes them talk. The human imagination fills in all the terrible ideas you don't even have to mention. Your father introduces you to the Iron Maiden, a human-shaped metal sarcophagus bristling with inward-facing spikes. Each spike pierces limbs, shoulders, thighs, never vital organs, he explains, demonstrating on a screaming victim. The art is in prolonged suffering, not swift death. You learn to operate it with surgical precision, knowing exactly which spikes to engage for different types of confessions. By 17, you're ready for the rack, the king of torture devices. A wooden frame that stretches people like clay. Listen to their breathing, your father explains. When it gets ragged, ease off. When they start talking, tighten more. Keep them right on the edge between confessing and dying. Your first solo lesson comes at 18. A woman accused of being a witch because her neighbor's cow died. You start gentle, just showing her the tools. She denies everything. But before you can proceed, you're accused of showing unauthorized mercy. The church demands proof of your divine sanction. You're forced to undergo trial by ordeal, plunging your hand into boiling oil to prove your methods are blessed by God. The searing agony reminds you that even torturers aren't above suspicion. When your wounds heal cleanly, you're deemed worthy to continue. Thumbscrews, still denying. Then you hang her by her arms for an hour. Finally, you mention her children. Shame they had to be questioned too. Kids are so fragile. She confesses within minutes, admits to flying on broomsticks, dancing with the devil, cursing crops. All lies, but effective lies. The crowd that watches her burn cheers your success. You feel sick. Years pass. You get good at your job. Disturbingly good. Your reputation spreads. They call you the Bone Breaker. You perfect new techniques. Keep detailed notes like any craftsman. Subject lasted 47 minutes before confession. Recommend different approach next time. But success comes with a price. Nobody talks to you except to hire your services. Kids run when they see you coming. Even priests won't let you sit with normal people. You're necessary but unwanted. Useful but unclean. You live alone at the edge of town. Your only companions are screams that echo in your head. You drink heavily, but alcohol doesn't wash away the memories. Women won't marry you. so you find companionship with someone as hated as you are. A brothel worker who understands what it's like to be society's necessary evil. 20 years of torture later, you're the most feared man in 3 counties. Your name makes criminals weep. You've extracted thousands of confessions, sent hundreds to their deaths. But comfort is relative when your job is inflicting misery. Every night brings nightmares, faces of people you've broken, voices begging for mercy you couldn't give. You wake up screaming more often than your victims did. Your wife gives birth to twin boys. For the first time in years, you feel hope. Maybe they can escape this life. But hope is luxury torturers can't afford. Your hands start shaking at 40. Years of gripping tools takes its toll. One day, you miscalculate. A prisoner dies before confessing. The judge is furious. Your reputation takes a hit. More mistakes follow. Word spreads that the great bone breaker is losing his touch. There's only one solution, and you hate it more than anything. You take your eldest son aside on his 13th birthday. "This is our family trade," you tell him, watching his face crumble. "I didn't choose it. My father didn't choose it, and neither will you. But if you're going to survive, you need to be better than I ever was." He cries, he begs, he tries to run away, but 3 days later, he's back, hungry and defeated. There's nowhere to run. The family curse follows you wherever you go. So you begin his training, just as your father trained you. You see in his eyes the same depth of innocence you felt all those years ago. The cycle continues. Your son learns the trade, masters the techniques, earns his own reputation. You retire to a corner of the house, hands too shaky to work. But retirement isn't freedom. It's just a different prison. You listen to screams from below, knowing your son is continuing the family tradition. Every cry reminds you this is your legacy, the curse you pass to another generation. You die at 52, which is old for someone in your profession. Most torturers don't live to see grandchildren. The stress, the drinking, the constant fear of revenge kills them young. But you've been lucky, if you can call any part of this life lucky. But even in your final years, there's no peace. Torturers are feared even in retirement. Villagers believe you're cursed, damned by your bloody trade. When your active service ends, you're quietly exiled to remote regions. Society's way of erasing the shame you represent. Few torturers receive pensions or land. Most are relocated far from civilization, or executed in secret to prevent their dark knowledge from spreading. Your sons bury you in the torturer's corner of the graveyard, far from decent folk, even in death. No priest says prayers over your grave. No mourners come to pay respects. Just your family, carrying on a tradition that's destroyed every generation for centuries. But at least it's over for you. The nightmares stop. The guilt ends. The screams finally fade to silence. You've paid your debt to a world that needed someone to do its dirty work, even if it hated you for doing it. Your sons, though, their story is just beginning. And somewhere in town, a 4-year-old boy is starting to wonder why people cross themselves when his family walks by. You're 18 in 1944 Okayama, Japan, arranging cedar combs in your father's small village shop. The scent of wood shavings hangs thick in the air. Behind you, your father shapes a block of wood, his hum matching the scrape of his blade. Through the open door, the drone of cicadas drift in, carried on the heat, folding into the rhythm of work passed down for generations. Then, the bell above the door chimes. You look up expecting a customer, but instead see polished black boots, pressed uniform, and a face carved from stone. He's the Imperial Navy recruitment officer, and he's here for you. The officer places 3 sheets of paper on the counter like death notices. Your father's humming dies. His blade pauses mid-carve. "Choose one," the officer says, voice flat as winter rain. You read, Option 1, I passionately volunteer to die for the Emperor. Option 2, I volunteer to die for the Emperor. Option 3, I do not volunteer to die for the Emperor. Sounds like a choice, right? Wrong. Your name is already printed on each form. Everyone will know what you picked. Choosing option 3 is like tattooing coward across your family name. But even if you do say no, it doesn't matter. Just ask Kuroda, the boy who declined, only to find his name listed as a proud volunteer anyway. The officer left with a perfect, self-claimed 100% sign-up rate. Your hands tremble as you reach for the pen like it's a murder weapon. The cedar scent now smells like a funeral. Congratulations, you're Tohotai, Japan's Special Attack Force. They named it after the divine wind that once saved Japan from the Mongol invasion. This time, you are the wind, and you're expected to explode on contact. Before we continue with this tragic story, we want to thank War Thunder for supporting this channel. War Thunder is an epic free-to-play multiplayer military action game where tanks, aircraft, helicopters, and warships clash in massive dynamic battles across realistic maps worldwide. But with a reset button real pilots never had. You can command ground vehicles, soar in fighter jets, or take the helm of powerful warships. In combined arms modes, ground and air fight together, while naval battles feature ship-to-ship combat on dedicated sea locations. Each machine, from the roar of jet engines to the recoil of naval guns, is modeled with incredible detail and realistic physics. The latest Leviathans update brings legendary new machines: the Japanese battleship Yamato, the American stealth helicopter Kamikaze, the Soviet T-72B3 tank, plus overhauled Berlin and Cuban maps for stunning visuals and deeper immersion. War Thunder is free to play on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Download using the link in the description, and if you're a new player or haven't played in 6 months or more, get exclusive bonuses, including 100,000 silver lions, premium vehicles, and more. And if you want to take the fight with you, War Thunder Mobile puts those same epic land, sea, and air battles right in your pocket. Free on iOS and Android. Now, back to our story. 3 days later, your flight training begins at a base where they've never heard of landing practice. Why waste time learning skills you'll never use? Captain Watanabe explains with a horror movie smile. This week, we learn takeoff. Next week, navigation. Next, how to aim at moving targets. Landing? What's landing? The planes are basically bombs with wings. American pilots get 240 hours of training before combat. You get 40 hours and a prayer. It's like learning to drive by only practicing how to start the car and steer towards a cliff edge. Your advanced combat training involves aiming practice on painted ship targets. The instructor points like he's discussing vacation spots. Hit the flight deck on carriers, maximum damage. Hit the bridge on destroyers, takes out command, maximum damage. At 18, your career counselor is teaching you to be a human torpedo. The psychological conditioning is relentless. Every meal starts with death meditation. Every evening ends with writing letters explaining why dying in a fireball is awesome. They're obsessed with cherry blossoms, flowers that bloom briefly and fall quickly, like the sakura. Commander Takagi explains, you will shine beautifully before falling for the Emperor. You start believing it too, because admitting you're in a death cult is too terrifying. Emperor Hirohito is literally a living god under Shinto religion. Not metaphorically divine, actually, genuinely a walking, talking, bespectacled deity who apparently needs glasses to see his divine destiny. You're supposed to die for someone who's immortal but wears corrective lenses, all-powerful but needs teenagers to blow themselves up to save his empire. The logic is flawless if you don't think. The religious manipulation runs deep. They promise dying in battle transforms you into a kami, a divine spirit protecting Japan forever from Yasukuni Shrine. Your final words to friends aren't goodbye, but see you at Yasukuni. But the cultural pressure goes beyond religion. In Japan's shame-based society, refusing means your entire family becomes outcasts. Parents, siblings, grandparents, everyone suffers for your cowardice. Emotional blackmail wrapped in patriotic ribbons. 6 months in, and Tokotai training makes prison feel like summer camp. The hierarchy is simple. Anyone above your rank can beat you bloody for any reason. Uniform wrinkle? Beating. Salute too slow? Beating. Glance at the Emperor's photo the wrong way? Beating. Your day begins at dawn with calisthenics, gun maintenance, survival drills, and corrective instruction that looks a lot like torture. Pilot in training Irokawa Daikichi, a soft-spoken boy from Kagoshima, took a rifle stock to the face until he was unrecognizable. His bunkmate was slammed headfirst into concrete. He never came back from the infirmary. But this brutal treatment makes you almost welcome kamikaze missions. At least flying into a destroyer means the pain stops. Death becomes less terrifying than another day of systemic brutalization. The beatings aren't random. They're psychological warfare designed to break your will until you become a compliant weapon, ready to be aimed and fired. A few days later, after evening drills, you're crouched in the barracks polishing your boots when Yamamoto slides a folded paper under your hand. From my cousin, he murmurs, keep it hidden. It's a letter, written in a cramped hand. I struggled to convince myself I had to die. I thought my death would be pointless. Even if Japan won, my family would die in the gutter because I wouldn't be there to support them. It tormented me. You look up. Who's this from? Student pilot in Kyushu. Philosophy major before they pulled him out of class. They're pulling all the young ones now. 3,000 teenage conscripts. The rest university boys. Almost none of the academy officers volunteered. The paper feels heavier than it should. You've been told kamikaze was the purest form of honor. But here, in smudged ink, was proof it was just another order dumped on those too young to refuse. Spring 1945. You're 19, and your number's up. You crouch inside the Oka slung under the belly of a lumbering G4M Betty bomber. Basically, a flying coffin with you as the payload. Top speed? Fast enough to make survival impossible. Maneuverability? About the same as a falling anvil. Survival rate? We don't talk about that. The send-off is pure theater. A white headband tied right across your brow. A shallow cup of ceremonial sake that tastes like liquid regret. Speeches about joining the ancestors in glory. Mechanics bow as you pass, either out of respect or because they'll never see you again. The Betty lurches into the sky, engines straining under the weight of death. You're crammed into Oka's tiny cockpit, surrounded by enough explosives to level a city block. For 30 minutes, you're nothing but cargo, locked under the bomber's belly. The Pacific crawling below, blue and indifferent. You can't even see the target yet, only endless water and the inside of your own helmet. Then, through the radio crackles, approaching target zone. USS Manert Elabel spotted. Prepare for release. A violent shudder and suddenly you're free. The Betty peels away, leaving you alone in the sky. You hit the rocket switch. The acceleration crushes you into the seat, your vision tunneling as the altimeter needle blurs. From release to over 600 miles an hour in seconds. A gut punch speed that makes maneuvering pointless and survival impossible. The destroyer swells in your vision. Gray steel slicing through white waves. Other Okas from the waves streak ahead, each becoming a brief, violent blossom of fire and smoke. For a split second, instinct begs you to pull up, to fake a malfunction, find any excuse to live. But there's nowhere to go. Your Oka carries no landing gear, no excess fuel, no radio home. It was never designed for return trips. The months of conditioning kick in. The shame of letting your family down. The promise of Yasukuni Shrine. The cherry blossom metaphors about beautiful, brief existence. All the slogans flood back, drowning out the one sane thought. This is insane. You think of your mother, maybe setting rice before your photo right now, not knowing her son is seconds away from becoming debris on the ocean floor. You think of the shop you'll never open, the life you'll never live, children who will never exist because the men giving orders plan to survive this war. The destroyer's deck explodes in size, every rivet visible. Sailors scatter, some diving for cover, some frozen in place. Somewhere, someone's shouting into a radio, but nothing can stop what's coming. 3 seconds. A white flash, and then nothing. But those 3 seconds stretch forever, long enough to understand that this wasn't heroic sacrifice. It was a waste. Waste of your life. Waste of potential. Waste of everything you could have been if powerful men hadn't decided your death was more valuable than your existence. Your name gets added to Yasukuni Shrine. Your family receives a folded flag and official condolences. Military reports list you as one successful kamikaze attack among thousands. The war continues for 9 more months before Japan surrenders anyway. And somewhere in the Pacific, fish swim through wreckage that was once an 18-year-old boy who just wanted to open a shop in his village. The kamikaze program killed 3,800 Japanese pilots, most of them barely trained conscripts. In some campaigns, hit rates reached a peak of 27% compared to an average of 2% for conventional attacks, sinking 47 Allied ships and damaging hundreds more. Strategically, it was a failure. No major American carriers or battleships were destroyed, and it may have pushed the US toward using atomic bombs. Their letters speak of family, love, and fear, not fanaticism. They weren't born to die. They were convinced their deaths mattered more than their lives. That's a truth no cherry blossom metaphor can make beautiful.
You're 8 years old, scrubbing fish guts behind your father's food stall in Edo 1702. Your hands sting from the cold water. Your kimono smells like mackerel and grease. And your father just scolded you for spilling vinegar on a customer again. The alley hums with flies and old smoke. You smell like lunch, not a person. But no one's paid attention to you long enough to care. Until today. 2 women appear, and they do not belong here. Their robes shimmer like koi fish. Their hair is sculpted into glossy shapes that could double as armor, and their faces are painted pale like porcelain dolls. One kneels in front of you, tilts your chin up, and examines your teeth like you're fruit in the market. She turns her hands over, checks your nails, your wrists, your ears.
You try to stay still. You flinch anyway, and she smiles. The second woman hands your father a pouch so heavy, it makes a thud when it lands in his palm. You don't understand until he avoids your eyes. He doesn't even speak, not even when you say his name. By sundown, you're behind the red gates of Yoshiwara, the sealed pleasure district of Edo. You walk through streets glowing with lantern light and crowded with silk, laughter, and perfume. Yoshiwara doesn't allow the outside world in after dark, and it doesn't let anyone out. It has its own rules, rhythm, and air. You've never seen so many people pretending to be happy all at once. You're told your name is no longer yours. From now on, you're Kamuro, a child attendant in a high-ranking Oiran house. You're not there to be raised. You're there to be polished. You serve tea, carry trays, fold towels, and sleep curled at the foot of your senior's futon like a house cat she didn't ask for. You learn to wake when she wakes, dress when she dresses, and anticipate what she wants before she says it. You're invisible until you mess up. Then you're a nuisance. Your senior is a Taiyu, one of the highest-ranking Oiran in Yoshiwara. Taiyu are not just courtesans. They're cultural symbols. They speak in elegant poetry, play multiple instruments, and wear outfits so elaborate they need help walking through doorways. When your Taiyu enters a room, men bow. Women stare as she moves like she's gliding, and she terrifies you. You watch everything she does, how she lowers her eyes, how she picks up her fan, how she smiles without giving anything away. You memorize her habits. You dream of becoming her, and fear it just as much. By 13, you've been promoted to Shinzo, an apprentice Oiran. Your training begins in earnest. You study tea ceremony, ink painting, etiquette, dance, and music. You learn to play the shamisen until your fingers blister and bleed. You memorize classic Chinese literature and the tale of Genji. You learn to walk so softly the floor doesn't creak, to kneel for hours without moving, to pour sake with such grace it looks like wind passing over water. You're not allowed to laugh openly. You must smile without showing teeth. You must always speak in the soft, high register expected of women in Yoshiwara. Refined, delicate, rehearsed. When you're 16, the house matron wakes you before dawn. It's time. Your debut walk, the Oiran Dochu, has been arranged. 2 assistants help you into a furisode kimono so heavy it might crush your spine. Its sleeves drag behind you like waterfalls. Your obi is tied in the front, a visible sign that you are available for purchase. Your hair is styled into a towering lacquered construction, decorated with dozens of gold pins and tortoiseshell combs. The weight alone gives you a headache that no one cares about. Your feet are strapped into komageta, wooden sandals nearly 6 inches high. You train for this walk, but every step still feels like punishment. You move slowly, deliberately, like time itself. Crowds gather along the street, and they can't take their eyes off you. Women want to be you, while men want to get you. You can't feel anything other than the heavy kimono dragging you down. But that's when it hits you. You're not a girl anymore. You are a product. When the walk ends, the real event begins. Your mizuage, the ceremonial loss of your virginity, is auctioned to the highest bidder. The man who wins is older than your father. His hands shake as he signs the contract. He doesn't speak to you, just stares like he's acquired a treasure. That night, you do as you're told. You lie still, keep your eyes open and mouth closed. You still don't feel anything. You suppressed your feelings when your father handed you in exchange for gold coins. So this night is still not the worst night of your life. And when it's over, you bathe, paint your face, and return to the parlor. Because now, you're a Taiyu, a full Oiran. And this is when the real performance begins. Your fame spreads fast. You walk in the evening parade, clacking through the street on your komageta while people wait hours for a glimpse. You host banquets where wealthy men flatter you with poetry and overpriced gifts. They write haikus about your eyes, your voice, your walk. One sends you a bonsai trimmed in your likeness. Another tries to gift you a piece of land. A third sends his severed pinky finger. You keep the tree. You burn the latter. In the banquets, you sit half concealed behind a gold leaf screen. You drink sake only when required. You laugh only when it's useful. You listen to men talk about politics, trade, their mothers, and pretend like every word is a revelation. You flatter their poetry, their swordsmanship, their cologne. You touch their hands only when the room demands it. And yet, there is power here. Unlike lower-ranked courtesans, you can say no. If a man disgusts you or bores you, you can politely refuse. Most won't risk the shame of rejection. You spend your 20s being worshipped. Your calendar is booked weeks in advance. Your name becomes synonymous with elegance. But then, the silence creeps in. The younger Shinzo are prettier, fresher, and of course, faster. They laugh harder, bow deeper. You notice when your name is bumped off a guest list, when your fan doesn't get a second glance. And then you begin to think the unthinkable. Freedom. But freedom has a price tag. Every meal you were served, every kimono you wore, every music lesson, sandal, and hair ornament, it's all debt. You've been working for years, and you haven't even paid off your own shoes. Some Taiyu marry out. A rich patron falls in love, redeems your contract, and offers a new life. But most fade into the background. They become house mothers, trainers, or disappear into private rooms no one enters anymore. You choose to keep performing. You perfect your act. You get better at guessing what each man wants. You laugh a little longer, smile a little softer. You pour tea for men who couldn't find your district without a map and a personal guide. And sometimes, a young client looks at you, not with lust, but with recognition. And for a moment, you forget to pretend. Then he leaves, and the mask returns. Years later, the Meiji Restoration era slams into Edo like a cannonball. Japan opens to the west, and the samurai vanish. This is when Christianity arrives. Geisha take over as the preferred entertainers. They are simpler, more modern, and less intimidating. People forget what an Oiran was. You hear tourists confuse the names. They point at an old painting of you and say Geisha. You say nothing. You are trained to be silent. Eventually, your name disappears from the registry. Your sandals are boxed, your ornaments tucked away. You're not remembered by crowds or clients, but by the flicker of a lantern, the sound of a shamisen string, the way a painted smile holds steady through pain. You weren't just beautiful. You weren't just trained. You were curated and calculated. The most expensive illusion Japan ever built. Still think Geisha had it rough? Watch Your Life as a Geisha next, because if you thought 6-inch wooden sandals were bad, just wait until you meet the neck pillow. You're 14 years old, herding goats on a hillside in Georgia, 1582, when the raiders come. Black smoke rises from your village below as men with curved swords drag screaming girls from burning houses. Strong hand seize you. Rope burns your wrists. Just like that, your childhood dies in the ashes of everything you've ever known. The slave trader circles you like a jeweler inspecting stolen treasure, measuring your height, testing your skin for flaws, checking your walk for signs of obedience. 3 weeks later, you're standing veiled in gauze so thin it hides nothing. A eunuch in silk robes nods. Coins change hands, and you become the Sultan's newest acquisition. The carriage rattles towards Topkapi Palace, its walls rising like a mountain of stone and secrets. At the gates, the Khizar Aga, the chief eunuch of the harem, inspects your group with the precision of a jeweler examining stones. His dark robes whisper power. Fresh flowers for the Sultan's garden, he purrs. But his smile has teeth. The hammam is your first taste of palace life. Marble floors, steam thick enough to drown in, attendants who scrub your skin until it bleeds. Senior matrons conduct health inspections in private rooms, their hands clinical, their eyes calculating. Your body is an investment now. Your new name is Sinaz, graceful, charming. Your old name dies with your old life. They dress you in simple cotton and teach you the rules. You're a carrier now, a slave trainee in the palace school. A possession, a breathing ornament in the Sultan's collection. The dormitory houses 20 girls, all torn from different corners of the empire. They teach you Turkish with strict discipline, obedience through careful surveillance. But they teach you Islam with patience and kindness. The only time you don't feel watched like prey. 2 years pass. You're 16 now, carved into something graceful, silent, dangerous in your beauty. The palace has a hierarchy. Valid Sultan Nurbanu at the top, under her, the chief consort, Haseki Sultan Safiye, then the senior consorts. Beneath them, the favorites. And at the bottom, girls like you, trainees and attendants, waiting to be chosen. At dawn, even before the Fajr prayer, you slip into your role like a costume. Eyes down, steps measured, voice sugar-coated. You're no longer a breathing girl, but background music in someone else's performance. You've learned to move like smoke, to survive on scraps of approval. The Valide Sultan, Nurbanu, watches everything with calculating intelligence. Competition is a living thing here, fed by desperation. The girl who arrived with you spreads rumors that you still pray to your Christian God. You find chicken blood in your bed and accusations of blasphemy following you. Only quick thinking saves you. You publicly burn a hidden cross and recite Islamic prayers until your voice breaks. She disappears the next week. Windows don't leave rope burns on necks. Music lessons consume your afternoons. Your fingers bleed learning the oud. Dancing is worse. Movements designed to seduce. Every gesture a promise. You practice until your feet crack, until the rhythm pounds in your skull like a headache. Your chance comes through an internal presentation. The Hazanadar Usta, senior treasurer, pins a jewel at your shoulder. The Kislar Aga, the chief eunuch, leads you through quiet courtyards to the Sultan's private chambers. No audience, no applause. Just a door that closes softly behind you. His eyes find you for the first time. The world stops. What is your name, flower? Sinaz, my sultan. You shall attend me tonight. That night, eunuchs carry you to his chambers on a litter like a sacrifice. What happens isn't love, it's conquest. You submit because resistance means death. Smile because tears mean weakness. Pretend pleasure because his satisfaction is your survival. 3 months later, you're pregnant. The news spreads like wildfire. You're moved to better quarters, elevated to a senior consort. But the upgrade comes with a price. Every meal could be poisoned. Every friendly face could hide an assassin's heart. Your son is born during spring rains. His first cry travels through chambers thick with incense and intrigue. The moment they place him in your arms, you understand what love can cost. You would kill entire kingdoms for this child. Sultan Murad III visits to inspect his newest heir, holding the baby like a merchant examining goods. Strong lungs, he grunts. He'll need them. Your elevation brings new dangers disguised as privileges. Better food you'll barely touch. More servants who could be spies. Richer clothes that feel like funeral shrouds. Your salvation comes when the Sultan begins showing genuine interest beyond your body. You find yourself summoned to his private study, where you learn to offer counsel disguised as casual observation. Your influence grows like a vine. Courtiers begin approaching you with requests they once took directly to the throne. But power is poison that tastes sweet. The girl who once herded goats is disappearing, replaced by someone harder, colder. When a young attendant reminds you too much of your former self, you have her transferred to the old palace, effectively ending her chances. You call it mercy, but know it's murder of a different kind. Your son grows clever, already showing intelligence that could make him a contender for the throne. In the harem's twisted logic, this makes him both precious and doomed. Haseki Sultan Safiye, whose influence grows as Nurbanu ages, corners you in the gardens. Your bastard will never wear the crown, she hisses. I'll see him dead first. You don't flinch. Touch my son, and I'll feed your entrails to the palace cats. By age 8, your son is old enough to be seen as a real threat. You surround him with loyal food tasters, train guards you trust with your life. You teach him to be suspicious of gifts, wary of strangers. You're teaching a child to survive in a den of silk-draped vipers. January 1595. Murad III is dead. By dawn, his son Mehmed III sits on the throne. Before the city wakes, silk cords finish their work. 19 princes, your son's uncles, are carried out wrapped in linen. All except your son, deemed too young to be a direct threat. Yet, you watch from your window as they carry out 19 bodies. You remember the nursery, the smell of milk, the sound of tiny breath. Now imagine 19 lives snuffed out before dawn. Your son at 13 shows dangerous promise. Intelligent, charming, attractive. When he accidentally witnesses a secret meeting between the Sultan and Venetian merchants, whispers begin that he's become too knowledgeable, too much of a risk. Your desperate plan unfolds over months. Using your network of spies, you arrange for your son to contract a serious illness, requiring treatment at Medres, a religious school, outside the city. The fever is real enough, carefully induced. The symptoms convincing. There, he recovers slowly while you arrange his transformation. A merchant caravan needs educated men. Your son, now using his grandfather's name and claiming to be an orphaned court official's child, joins them. His royal education serves him well. He can read maps, speak languages, handle horses. He's 15 when he disappears into the dust of trade routes, carrying your heart into exile. Your son's escape leaves you hollowed out, but you've learned to wear masks. Back in 1583, when Nurbanu had died and Safiya rose as the new power behind the throne, you continued serving. Now, fate has one final twist. During a diplomatic crisis with Venice, your knowledge of the old sultan's secret deals make you invaluable. You never receive a formal title, but power flows through different channels. Through Akira, a Jewish intermediary who trades letters and jewels, your whispers reach Venice and back. Favors cross the lattice faster than official decrees. You've achieved something no concubine before you ever dreamed of. Real influence that doesn't depend on beauty or the current sultan's favor. Years pass. Reports trickle in of a brilliant young general in the eastern provinces. A man of unknown parentage rising through the ranks with impossible speed. You never confirm it's your son, never risk his safety by claiming him, but your heart knows. The fever comes suddenly, burning through your body like wildfire. At 52, your body finally rebels against decades of silk-wrapped survival. Palace physicians shake their heads. Even the most powerful woman in the empire can't cheat death forever. You lie surrounded by rosewater and candlelight, servants whispering Quranic verses. Your breathing grows shallow as consciousness drifts like smoke. Then, footsteps echo in the corridor. Boots, not slippers. Your maid whispers urgently to the eunuch guarding your door. There's a man asking to see her. He says he's her son. Through fever-hazed eyes, you see him. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing the uniform of a Sanjak Bey, a provincial governor. The face is older, weathered by desert campaigns, but the eyes are unmistakable. Your eyes. He kneels beside your bed, and his voice is deeper now, but carries the same stubborn tone you remember. You told me to trust no one, but I trusted you, and I made it back. Your trembling hands find his face, tracing features that blend his father's strength with your determination. You lived, you whisper, voice barely a breath. That's all I ever wanted. I carry your blood, he says, pressing something small into your palm, a carved wooden goat, worn smooth by years of handling. That makes me unbreakable. You close your eyes, finally unafraid. Your last thought isn't of the life stolen from you, but of the legacy you forged in fire and silk.
You're 6 years old, chasing your wooden doll through the wet grass of your family's manor garden in 15th century England, when a thunder of hooves split the air. Men in velvet doublets, reeking of horse sweat and spiced wine, crowd the great hall. One of the men kneels before your father, unfurls a parchment sealed with a king's wax. Your father scans it once, twice, then stares at you as if you've turned into a sack of gold, which, in a way, you have. The letter is your marriage contract. Congratulations, you've just been traded as a child bride to secure a political alliance. Yesterday, your life was dolls and daydreams, nurses spinning tales of knights and dragons, while you nibbled on honeyed bread that stuck sweetly to your fingers. This morning, you wake up to find your wooden dolls have been packed away. Ladies don't play with toys, your governess sniffs, replacing them with a needle and thread. You're 6, the world a blur of castle drafts and flickering hearth fires when the lessons begin. Not ABCs or fairy tales, but curtsies so deep your knees kiss the stone floor, and French phrases that twist your tongue like thorns. For your future husband, your mother whispers, her voice laced with something bitter, like the herbal tonics she forces down your throat to strengthen your womb. Strengthen? You're still losing baby teeth, for God's sake. By 7, the inspections start. A parade of pinch-faced physicians and midwives troop into your chamber, reeking of vinegar and herbs. They press rough hands against your belly, mutter about humors, and whisper about breeding potential. One grizzled doctor nods approvingly. You'll do nicely once you're old enough. The way he says old enough makes your skin crawl in ways you don't yet understand. Your father beams like he's won a lottery, while you huddle under the blankets, pretending it's all a nightmare. Then, the day comes. You're dressed in a scratchy brocade gown that weighs more than you do, standing in a drafty chapel that smells of incense and old stone. The groom? A man old enough to be your father, his breath sour with ale, his eyes scanning you like a merchant appraising cloth. He's 32, you're 7, and the betrothal, dressed up like a wedding, feels suffocating. Your dress is heavy, the crown keeps sliding over your eyes, and you can barely pronounce your own vows. You feel like you could just leave it all behind and run away to find some fresh air, and maybe a few toys, but you can't. Vows are mumbled, yours scripted, his slurred. Rings exchanged. Yours a heavy gold band that slides around your finger like a shackle. You're kissed by a man who smells like ale and old leather. Crowd cheers. The feast follows. A roar of laughter and clinking goblets. But your childhood officially dies in that moment, suffocated under yards of crimson silk. You spend your betrothal night in a strange bed, curled around the little cloth doll you smuggled beneath your shawl, while the revelry below thunders on. Your new home is a fortress 3 days' ride from everything you've ever known. The servants whisper in a dialect you don't recognize. Your husband's first wife died in childbirth at 15. A cheery welcome to the family story the maids share while unpacking your miniature trunks. Hope you slept tight, princess. 2 years married and still sleeping alone. It should feel like a blessing, but somehow feels worse. You're in matrimonial limbo. Too young to be a real wife, too married to be a child. The court physicians examine you monthly. Not yet ready. They announced a room full of men discussing your body like butchers circling a cut of beef, waiting for it to sizzle on the bonfire before declaring it fit for the feast. At 10 years old, you're shipped off to your husband's court like a crate of fine wine. Valuable, but not to be uncorked yet. The carriage ride jolts over rutted roads, each bump a reminder of your new title,
child bride, whispered behind fans like a curse. You arrive at a sprawling castle, towers piercing the sky like accusatory fingers, air thick with wood smoke and intrigue. Life here is a twisted fairy tale. Mornings, embroidery lessons, where your pricked fingers bleed onto silk-staining patterns meant to symbolize fertility. Afternoons, dancing instruction, your tiny feet blistering in leather shoes, learning to glide like a swan while your heart hammers like a trapped bird. The ladies in waiting coo over you. Such a little queen. But their smiles are knives, their gossip venom. Will she even bleed before he beds her? One hisses. You pretend not to hear, but the fear coils in your gut like a serpent. You're 12, and inspections intensify. Monthly, a midwife strips you bare in a chilled chamber, her hands rough as bark, checking for womanly signs. The first blood comes at 12, a crimson stain on your linens that seals your fate. Word spreads like wildfire. Your husband summons you to his solar, his face flushed with wine and anticipation. Soon, he growls, his hand lingering on your shoulder, heavy as iron. You nod, smile frozen, while inside you scream. The court ridicules you openly now. She's ready for what feels like a death sentence with extra steps. Your husband orders new bed sheets. The doll wife, they call you, snickering at your flat chest and childish braids. Rivals, older mistresses with curves and cunning, circle like wolves, spreading rumors that you're barren already or cursed by the fairies. One slips a fertility charm in your food. It tastes like dirt and despair. Nights are worst. Alone in your bed, you hug your knees, imagining escape through arrow-slit windows. But the guards' footsteps echo like jailers. Sometimes you develop elaborate fantasies about escaping, disguising yourself as a boy, joining a convent, dying dramatically of consumption like the heroines in romance stories. But in reality, you can't do anything, except wait. And the wait isn't mercy, it's torture, stretching your childhood's last threads until they snap. You're 13 now, and your wedding night arrives like an execution date. The older women prepare you with the enthusiasm of morticians, braiding your hair and dressing you in a nightgown thin as cobwebs. Their advice ranges from unhelpful, like think of England, to terrifying, bite down on this leather strap if it gets too bad. The bedding ceremony. A crowd of nobles marches you to bed, laughing, tugging at your sleeves, yanking back the covers, demanding proof come morning. The curtains close, but privacy is a joke. Their cheers seep through like poison. The experience lives down to every horrifying expectation. It hurts. It hurts like being torn apart from the inside. His weight crushing, his grunts animal. You clench your fists, bite your lip bloody to stifle screams, only to taste iron and tears. A few moments later, you lie motionless, staring at ceiling beams and wondering if this is what marriage means. Being broken apart and expected to smile about it. Your husband sleeps soundly beside you while you quietly bleed into expensive linens. Dawn brings bloodied sheets paraded like a trophy, proof of your womanhood. 6 months later, you're pregnant, a nightmare in miniature. The court applauds you while you vomit in a chamber pot. You're 14 and terrified. Your belly swells, but so does the nausea, the bone-deep exhaustion. Morning sickness keeps you bedridden for weeks while physicians poke and prod, monitoring their precious air container. Labor begins 3 days before your 15th birthday and lasts 36 hours. Pure agony on a sweat-soaked bed. No epidurals in medieval times, just herbs that barely dull the edge. And midwives who tell you to breathe through it while you're being split in half. You scream until your throat bleeds, then scream some more. You survive, barely. The baby doesn't. Your son, because of course it was a son, lives for 4 hours before slipping away like morning mist. Your grief is immediately overshadowed by your husband's rage about their lost heir, and his demands that you try again before your stitches have even healed. You bleed for days, feverish, hovering at death's door. The physicians bleed you more, leeches sucking at your arms like greedy courtiers. You survive, barely, but your body remembers. Hips widen, scars hidden under gowns, a constant ache like a war wound. At 15, you're a widow. Your husband dies of a fever, leaving you with crushing debts, a title you can't inherit, and trauma layered thick as winter frost. For the first time in a decade, you're alone with your thoughts. They're not pleasant company. Freedom lasts exactly 3 months before your brother-in-law arrives with another marriage contract. Apparently, your womb is still considered valuable real estate, despite its previous tenant not surviving long. You're to be married off again, this time to a duke twice your age, who already has 6 children from 2 previous wives. Both previous wives died young. Coincidence? Probably not. Your new husband's court is a nest of vipers, where his children from other marriages view you as competition for their inheritance. His oldest daughter is your age and makes it clear she'd happily poison your wine if given the chance. The husband is kinder but no less demanding. He wants an heir, preferably multiple heirs, and treats your body like a business investment that needs to show returns. You become pregnant again, miscarry at 6 months, get pregnant again. The cycle becomes as predictable as seasons and twice as brutal. At 18, you finally produce a surviving son. The court celebrates. You collapse from exhaustion and blood loss. The recovery takes months, during which whispers circulate about finding your husband a second wife to help with the breeding duties. You're 18 years old and already considered worn out. Your body bears the evidence of repeated trauma, complications from difficult births, malnutrition from constant pregnancy, and a spine curved from carrying babies before your own bones finished growing. You look in mirrors and see a stranger wearing your face, aged beyond her years by experiences no child should have survived. At 22, you've buried 2 husbands, birthed 4 children, 2 of whom survived, and somehow navigated the murderous politics of medieval nobility without being poisoned, executed, or driven completely mad. Your health is permanently damaged from too many pregnancies too young. Your hips ache constantly. Your back is twisted from carrying babies before your body was ready, and you've developed a chronic cough that physicians can't cure. Beauty was supposed to be your currency, but survival became your skill instead. But here's the thing. When the next marriage proposal arrives, another aging lord seeking a proven breeder, you do something radical. You say no. Your surviving children give you political leverage. Your lands provide income, and your reputation for survival makes enemies think twice. For the first time in your life, you choose your own path. The 7-year-old who lost her wooden dolls would be proud. You finally learned to play with fire instead of being consumed by it. You're 17 years old in Japanese-occupied Korea in 1941 when they come with their polished promises. Your village of Andong shivers under colonial rule. Japanese soldiers patrol like wolves. Your Korean name has been replaced with Yamamoto Junko, and speaking your mother tongue earns you bloody knuckles from the teacher's stick. Your family is starving. Your father works 16-hour factory shifts for pennies. Your mother's fingers bleed from endless mending. And your 14-year-old brother coughs like he's dying from the inside out. Winter has been brutal, rice is rationed, and the rent collector circles like a vulture. Then 2 officials arrive with an interpreter, whose eyes won't meet yours. Factory work in Manchuria, they explain, showing photographs of smiling girls in clean uniforms. Good wages, regular meals, honorable service to the empire. Your daughter will send money home and return with valuable skills. The promised wage is more than your father makes in 3 months. Your brother needs medicine. Your mother counts the advance payment with shaking hands. More cash than your family has seen in years. Many girls from neighboring villages have already volunteered. The interpreter continues, this opportunity won't last long. You want to refuse. Every instinct screams against their too smooth promises and predatory eyes. But your brother coughs in the next room. Your father's hands shake from exhaustion, and your mother's tears have worn permanent tracks down her cheeks. I'll do it, you whisper, the words tasting like betrayal. 3 days later, you board a freight train with 11 other girls, clutching a cloth bundle containing everything you own. A family photo, your grandmother's silver hairpin, and a notebook of secret Korean poems. You don't know you're packing for hell. The train journey becomes a nightmare parade of red flags. Guards with rifles replace the polite officials. The promised meals are rice balls handed out once daily. There's no toilet, just a bucket for 12 girls. By day 3, Mi Young from the village north of yours develops a fever. By day 7, she dies in your arms. The guards drag her body out like garbage and leave her beside the tracks. Clean up the mess, they tell you, as if she was refuse instead of a person with a name and a family waiting for letters that will never come. The train stops in Burma, thousands of miles from the promised Manchuria. Military trucks transport you through dense jungle to a compound surrounded by double rows of barbed wire. Guard towers rise from each corner, searchlights already beginning their evening sweep. Commander Sato addresses your group with a matter-of-fact tone of someone reading a supply manifest. You are here to serve the sexual needs of the Imperial Japanese Army. You will serve as soldiers according to the schedules we provide. You will not resist, refuse, or attempt escape. The jungle will kill you faster than we will, but we will kill you if necessary. You are assigned number 7, the name Tanaka Michiko. and a room barely large enough for a sleeping mat and water basin. The wooden placard nailed above your door replaces your identity. That's who you are now, a number. The first soldier comes that very night, young, maybe 20, with soft features that might have been kind in another life, but his eyes are empty, his hands rough, and he speaks Japanese words you don't understand, while he destroys everything you thought you knew about your own body. You try to disappear into memories of your mother's garden, your father reading newspaper by lamplight, but the pain keeps pulling you back. When it's over, you lie on your mat, understanding that the girl who boarded the train in Andong just died. By your first week's end, you serviced 47 soldiers. You count because your mind needs something to hold on to, some way to measure time in a place where days blur into endless violation. Time becomes fluid. Days measured not by sunrise but by soldier rotations, meal deliveries, weekly medical examinations that feel like additional violations. You turn 18 sometime in 1942, though birthdays don't exist here. You develop mental compartmentalization so complete you learn to separate consciousness from flesh entirely. While soldiers use your body, your mind retreats to a small, clean room where you sit with your grandmother, embroidering flowers that will never fade. Sujin, another survivor, becomes your lifeline. She teaches you which guards can be bribed, which soldiers turn violent when drunk, how to fake illness convincingly enough to earn rest without triggering punishment. Make them see you as slightly more human than the others, she whispers. But not so human you become a threat. Some girls develop different coping mechanisms. Kyungsun stops speaking entirely. Jungmi talks to herself in rapid whispers that sound like prayer, but use no recognizable words. You perfect the art of absence, floating above scenes while your body endures what cannot be survived. By 1944, chronic pain settles into your joints. Your teeth loosen from vitamin deficiency. Infections linger for weeks without proper medicine. New girls arrive sporadically. You teach them survival rules. Don't fight unless fighting will win. Remember your real name, but only in your head. Save strength for surviving, not for gestures that accomplish nothing. Some listen, others break within weeks. You perform small rituals for girls who don't survive, whispering their real names to jungle spirits, promising their stories won't be forgotten. August 1945. Japan surrenders, but nobody unlocks your door. Officers burn papers behind the administrative building, and rumors spread of some posts disposing of women. Commander Sato announces, transport will be arranged for your relocation. Sujin overhears guards talking. They're eliminating evidence before evacuation. All evidence. You escape during the darkest pre-dawn hour, cutting through barbed wire with a stolen kitchen knife, following Sujin's hand-drawn map towards a river 2 miles northeast. The jungle swallows you immediately. A wall of green so dense you lose sight of the compound within 50 yards. For 4 days you follow game trails and stream beds, eating leaves and bark, drinking from streams without worrying about disease. Sujin develops fever on day 3, becomes delirious, and dies quietly on day 4. You dig her grave with bare hands and whisper her real name. Pak Sujin from Incheon to the spirits. For the first time since capture, you are completely alone. The Burmese village, where you finally stumble, emaciated and infected, provides rice and fish broth, but treats you with distant wariness. You represent something they don't want to acknowledge, war's reality for women. Allied forces eventually process you through repatriation camps, a nightmare of paperwork and bureaucratic indifference. Mrs. Kim, an older Korean woman, coaches you through the system. Tell them you are a factory worker. The truth makes officials uncomfortable, and uncomfortable officials don't approve paperwork. The merchant vessel to Busan takes 12 days. You spend most of it on deck, watching the ocean and trying to prepare for a homecoming that feels like attending your own funeral. 9 months later, you're standing in front of your own home. Your mother opens the door before you knock, aged decades in your absence, hair completely gray, face lined with permanent worry channels. Sunja? She whispers, using your real name for the first time in years. Your family has built a life during your absence. Your father has steady work with American supervisors. Your brother studies engineering in Seoul on an American scholarship. There's no space in their recovered world for the broken stranger you've become. That night, listening to your parents whisper about your hollow eyes and flinching reactions, you know you can't stay. Within a week, you leave Andong forever, carrying a carefully crafted lie about finding work in Seoul. Seoul in 1946 is a city reinventing itself, perfect for someone needing to disappear. You find factory work, rent corners of boarding house rooms, perfect the art of existing without leaving traces. You move 7 times, change jobs 12 times, develops supernatural abilities to survive chaos using skills learned in the compound, reading men's intentions, becoming invisible when necessary. The Korean War arrives like returning fever. Chinese soldiers, North Korean troops, American forces. To women like you, they're all potential threats. You learn to recognize army units moving through the city and disappear until they pass. By 30, you look 50. Malnutrition has left your teeth loose, hair thin. Chronic infections have damaged your reproductive system so severely, a back alley doctor calls it war damage, as if your body were a bombed building. Sometimes this feels like loss, the traditional life that might have provided cover. More often, it feels like mercy. You've become an expert seamstress, read voraciously, write poetry in your notebook. At 50, you realize you've spent more years hiding than you lived before it happened. You begin wondering if silence honors what happened to you, or if it's another form of imprisonment. Korea democratizes in the 1980s. Students occupy universities. Journalists investigate forbidden topics. The enforced silence that protected you begins feeling more like suffocation than safety. In 1990, you read about Professor Yoon Chung-ok's research into comfort women, the clinical term finally giving name to your experiences. We need survivor testimonies, she says, to ensure this history isn't forgotten. After 17 drafts over 3 months, you mail a letter offering testimony. 3 weeks later, they reply with compassion and professionalism. In your small apartment, you tell your story in fragments to researchers who believe you. Understand the historical context. Value your experience as evidence rather than shame. On August 14, 1991, you stand outside the Japanese embassy with 12 other survivors. Most wear masks to conceal identities. You choose to show your face. After 50 years of hiding, you want to be seen. Kim Hak-sun gives the first public testimony. When she finishes, you step forward. My name is Kim Soon-ja, you say, using your real name publicly for the first time since 1941. I was 17 when they took me. I want the world to know what happened to us. Your voice shakes, but grows stronger with each sentence. You describe the system for what it was: state-organized sexual slavery, used as a weapon of war and a crime that destroyed hundreds of thousands of lives. We were children with dreams and families and futures. You took all of that and tried to erase us from history. The response is immediate and overwhelming. Support letters from women's groups and individuals expressing admiration, but criticism too. Anonymous calls questioning your motives. Letters suggesting you maintain dignity through silence. On January 8, 1992, you joined the first of the now weekly Wednesday demonstrations, growing in size and international attention. You become a regular participant, testimony becoming part of Korean and international consciousness. You speak at universities, the UN, legislative bodies worldwide. Japan issues partial acknowledgments but avoids legal responsibility. They support an Asian women's fund that offers atonement money as private charity rather than government reparations. You join other survivors in rejecting these payments. We don't want charity. We want acknowledgement that crimes were committed. At 90, you reflect on 2 decades of advocacy. Legal goals remain unfulfilled. Japan hasn't accepted responsibility or provided adequate reparations. But cultural transformation is undeniable. The comfort women issue is now part of historical consciousness. Your testimony preserved for future generations. Museums, memorials, and educational programs ensure the history you helped reveal will survive. University courses examine the comfort women system as a case study in systemic sexual violence and historical justice. Your decision to break silence has inspired other survivors worldwide to find their own voices. In your final years, you tell visiting relatives, everyone faces moments when they can choose silence or truth. I chose silence for 50 years. It protected me, but also imprisoned me. When I chose truth, it was frightening, but also liberating. The important thing is to choose consciously, rather than let fear decide. You're 9 years old, asleep under a mosquito net in your family's mud brick hut, when the night splits open with boots and gunfire. Hands drag you into the dirt before you can even scream. Your mother claws at the soldiers until a rifle butt cracks her jaw. Your father begs. Wrong move. They shoot him where he kneels. The smell of blood and gunpowder staining the air forever. A commander shoves a rust-spotted AK into your shaking hands. It's heavier than you are. Prove you're one of us, he says, Jerking his chin toward your little brother, sobbing in the dust, you freeze. He presses the barrel of his rifle against your brother's chest, then wraps his calloused hand around yours, curling your small fingers over the trigger. "Do it," he whispers. His hand squeezes until yours obeys. The crack shatters the night, and your brother drops. Childhood is over, and you're now a soldier. The first night is no sleep. It's a blur of crying, shouting, and the smell of diesel clinging to your skin. They march you and a dozen other kids into the bush, barefoot, stumbling through thorny undergrowth that rips your legs open. Every step feels like it's punishing you for surviving. When dawn comes, you're lined up in a clearing. A commander walks down the row, eyes sharp as machetes. He points at the smallest boy, maybe 7, and shakes his head. Too weak. 2 men drag the child into the trees. His screams echo for a minute, then nothing. Lesson 1. Weakness is death. Your turn. They shove the rifle into your arms, its weight almost toppling you. Not yet, the commander sneers. He pulls a knife from his belt and presses it into your palm. This is better. A villager is dragged forward, bound and gagged. His face familiar. It's the man who used to give you mangoes at the market. He pleads with his eyes, muffled sobs through the cloth. Do it or join him. Your stomach twists. Your hands shake. You whispers, "I can't." Wrong answer. A fist slams into your gut, knocking the air out of you. The barrel presses against your temple again, cold as betrayal. Survival makes the choice for you. You raise the knife. The world narrows to the sound of your own breath, ragged, frantic. Then silence, broken only by the thud of a body hitting the dirt. Childhood dies a second time. They pat your back. They call you brother now, but the word tastes like ash. You wake each day to a chorus of gunfire, the executions. Some child caught trying to escape. Some villager accused of betrayal. You stop asking why. Your body becomes their project. They march you until your soles crack, feed you scraps that barely keep your ribs from piercing skin. When you falter, the butt of a rifle corrects your spine. When you collapse, they drag you into the shade, pour powder and liquid down your throat. Brown, they call it. A mix of cocaine and gunpowder that sets your heart on fire and burns away the fear. Suddenly, you're not starving. Suddenly, you're invincible. At least, that's what they want you to believe. At night, the real rituals begin. They paint ash across your face, force you to kneel before the commander. He lifts a machete above your head like a priest blessing a disciple. The army is your mother. The army is your father. The army is your blood. You repeat it again and again until the words bleed into your bones. Your name is forbidden. It's too dangerous, too human. They give you a new one, sharp and violent. A name meant for killing. Your old name fades like a dream you're not allowed to remember. And in the back of your mind, you recall stories of Spartan boys whipped until they stopped crying. Janissaries stripped from their villages and given new names. You used to think that was ancient cruelty. Now it's your daily reality. Different centuries, same nightmare. One night they hand you a box. Inside, the severed hand of a man accused of desertion. You're ordered to wear it on a string around your neck as a lesson. The smell of rot clings to you for days. By the time they let you bury it, you're already numb. Numb enough to shoot. Numb enough to smile, cry, kill when told. Numb enough to survive. The day arrives without warning. Dawn breaks red with smoke curling above a village ahead. The commanders herd you forward, rifles raised, machetes gleaming. Your heart hammers so hard you can feel it in your teeth. The village looks like your own once did. Goats tethered by clay huts. Women pounding grain. Children chasing a ball of rags. They don't see you until it's too late. Then, chaos erupts. Screams, flames, gunfire. Go! Your commander shouts, shoving you into the fray. Your rifle feels like an anchor in your hands, but the trigger's just a finger away. You freeze. A boy your age bolts from the doorway, eyes wide with the same terror you feel. For a split second, you see yourself reflected there, barefoot, innocent, unarmed. Shoot! The commander snarls. The barrel of his own rifle presses between your shoulder blades. Instinct takes over. You squeeze the trigger. The kick slams against your shoulder. The boy falls. The sound echoes louder than the gunfire around you. The whole scene runs in slow motion before you. You stumble forward, ears ringing, stomach heaving. But the killing doesn't stop. Men torch houses. Women dragged by their hair. Children screaming, then silenced. A commander grabs your arm, drags you to a body, dips your fingers into fresh blood, and smears it across your cheeks. Now you are reborn, he whispers. Reborn as what? You don't dare ask. That night, the camp feasts. Meat roasted over fire, stolen from the same village you helped destroy. Around the flames, the boys laugh like hyenas, voices cracked with adrenaline and powder. You laugh too, because if you don't, they'll know. By 15, you're no longer the trembling child dragged from a hut. You're the one storming them, kicking down doors, pressing rifles into smaller hands and telling them the same words you once heard. Prove you're one of us. The cycle turns, and you're both cog and engine. Some kids tote rifles, others haul ammo and food. Girls are claimed as wives and punished if they resist. Raids blur into each other. Villages burned, livestock stolen, children snatched. Some of those children cry for their mothers. Others just stare at you with hollow eyes. You tell yourself you're saving them from death, but the truth gnaws at you. You're dragging them into the same living grave. There are moments of strange brotherhood. Around the fire, you and the other boys joke, share scraps of food, even sing. For a heartbeat, you feel human again. But then dawn comes, and you're ordered to march, to forget and kill bloody everyone coming your way. The commanders keep you drugged, powder rubbed into your gums, pills slipped into your hand like candy. The rush makes your limbs light. Your fears vanish, but when the high fades, the ghosts return. Nightmares rip you awake, faces of the ones you killed, eyes staring through the dark. You try not to sleep. You try not to remember. You think of janissaries forced to fight their own kin, of Khmer rogue children made executioners, of Spartan boys killing slaves in the night. History isn't in books anymore. It's carved into your own hands. Some nights you dream of escape, running through the jungle until the gunfire fades. But you know what happens to those who try. Their corpses are displayed at dawn, bodies stiff, flies buzzing, mouths frozen in silent screams. You swallow your dream and march on. By 17, your rifle feels like an extension of your body. Your eyes are dead glass. Your voice gravel from smoke and chants. You're not fighting for freedom or for glory, or even for survival. You're fighting because you've forgotten how to stop. It happens fast. It always does. One raid too many, one ambush too sudden. You're 17, stumbling through tall grass when gunfire tears the air apart. Bullets snap past like angry insects. A blast hurls you onto your back, the sky spinning above you. Your ears ring, your leg burns, blood soaking the dirt. The commander screams orders, but you can barely lift your head. And then they leave. The same men who called you brother vanish into the trees, their boots pounding, their rifles cracking in retreat. You're not worth carrying. You're not worth saving. Hours pass. The pain sharpens, then dulls, and sharpens again. By dusk, strangers in blue helmets appear. Foreign soldiers, aid workers. They haul you onto a stretcher. He's just a boy, one says, voice muffled by the haze. Just a boy. The words sting like mockery. The camp they take you to smells of medicine and bleach. They cut your rags away, stitch your leg, give you food that tastes like ash. They tell you you're free now. Free. The word feels hollow. Free to do what? Free to be who? Because when you close your eyes, you don't see freedom. You see villages burning. You see children crying. You see the brother you shot at 9, his face frozen in shock forever. You see the boy you shot at 13. The world outside the camp is no kinder. The villagers whisper when you pass. Murderer, traitor, monster. They're not wrong. Your old home is gone. Your family buried. The army made sure you belong nowhere. Too broken for the world you left. Too human for the world you are forced into. You wander the edges of towns, begging, hiding, surviving. The uniform's gone, but it doesn't matter. The war isn't over. It's stitched into your skin. By 20, the mirror no longer shows a boy. It shows a stranger. Eyes flat, skin scarred, hands trembling even when empty. You survived the army, the raids, the bullets. But survival is no life. It's just another prison. Some nights you still hear the commander's voice. Prove you're one of us. And in the silence that follows, you realize you did. You proved it again and again, with every trigger pulled, every torch dropped, every child dragged from their bed. You proved it. Now there's nothing left to prove, only ghosts. You sit alone, watching children play in the dust. They laugh, chasing a ball of rags, just like you once did. For a heartbeat, you almost smile. Then one of them shouts your old name, the name you thought was dead. You spin, heart racing, but no one's calling you. They're just playing. Your name belongs to someone else. You're 9 years old again, under the mosquito net, dreaming of fireflies. But the boy under that net never wakes up. You've outlived the war, but not yourself. Your childhood was executed, and the executioner still lives within you. And while your life as a child soldier was filled with suffering, there were others across the world whose fate wasn't much better. Behind silk walls in Ming China, survival meant new rules, new chains. Click here to see what life was like as a concubine in Ming Dynasty China.